Hey everyone, Marty Morales here, and I want to bring up a topic that doesn't come up that much in our industry, but it does happen in our world, and I'm sure it happens in other industries as well. And that is the topic of intellectual property and really, in general, integrity in teaching. And what I mean by this specifically is when an instructor creates a method or creates a curriculum in a class, and a student or some other instructor takes the class, takes the materials, and eventually goes off and teaches their own class based on the materials that they learned from the previous class. I'm sure this has happened if you're a teacher, where a student shows up, takes your classes, and then eventually you find out that the student is essentially teaching your material. In the past, it's happened to me. I've seen a few instances of this, and I think there are maybe some mixed feelings when it comes to that type of situation or that type of event. And there are things that you could do as an instructor to mitigate that, if you will, or possibly even protect yourself 100%. But really, kind of bottom line is no one really holds the patent or can protect a certain technique. So a certain technique of hands going in XYZ position and working in a certain way is really difficult to protect. So it's possible for someone to take a class, see a technique, and go off and teach it themselves. But the problems arise when when a student tries to call their work your work. And if you as an instructor have trademarked your classes, your curriculum, your class names, then there is a level of protection. For example, Morales Method is a trademark, and the name of our classes are also trademarked under Morales Method. So that offers some level of protection. There was an instance where it didn't happen in this country, where a student took my classes, and then within the year, I found out that they were teaching their own classes. They put them under their name, and I never saw what the classes were or the techniques. But in the end, I actually wish them well, because they decided to go off and do their thing under some other name. And really, that's kind of how we all started. I did not hatch and started to create my techniques out of nothing. I also went and did trainings, and I trained specifically under the Rolf Institute. And in my classes, you will hear that I trained under this instructor or that instructor, and I try to do my best to give credit to who taught me, and also to really express the lineage, because there is a lineage. And I will say, I learned this when I was in Colorado, or I learned this when I was learning in Brazil. I think that's important to do. And one of the things that I actually try to do is, to the best of my ability, try to show exactly what I learned. And now, some of the things that I learned, for example, in Brazil, we're getting close to 20 years ago. So try to show exactly what I learned, but then show, obviously, in the class, the technique has evolved, and there's now, some new version of it, and possibly an amalgamation of different things that I've learned. I think this happens naturally as an instructor also has a private practice, and I have a private practice. I've been in practice for 21 years now. So even though I may have learned a technique, the technique goes through some sort of honing process, some sort of distilling process, if you will, so that within the lab of my practice, right? And then what ends up happening is I show a technique that works for me. So, that is the case. That is what happens. But sometimes you run into the situation where a student may end up teaching a technique that they learned from a class and they start calling it. Um, start calling it by the name that they learned it from, and that's when we start to run into issues. Where we start to run into the infringement on some type of intellectual property. And and really, why have I started talking about this? Well, I talked to an instructor a few days ago, and they were talking about this whole topic to me and the numerous amounts of cease and desist letters that they've had to send out. And I thought that was interesting. I am thinking about the number of cease and desist letters that I've sent out, and I've never sent out a specific cease and desist under Morales method, but we have under Morales method have sent several emails in the past just outlining, hey, Morales method is a protected trademark, and don't call it this because you're not allowed to, or don't say that your work is, under Morales method because it's not, where, we as Morales method have to give permission for that. And we have explicitly not, for example, in an email. I understand the process of someone becoming an instructor, and I think that's fine. If someone takes a bunch of classes and they learn a thing, and maybe within the process of their own practice, they create a curriculum that they want to share. I think that's amazing. That's wonderful. I think we need a lot more instructors and teachers. So I think that's a great process. We just run into an issue when someone starts to use trademarks or names that they aren't allowed to. On a side note, under Morales method, we also protect the trademark by stating the instructors who are allowed to teach. And you can see on our website, if you go under, practitioners page, you'll see who are the pain specialists, who are the ones who are allowed to use Morales method pain specialist title, who are the structural integration practitioners, who are the instructors, who are the deep tissue practitioners. So these are folks who have gone through a process and who have to actually go through an application process and the whole thing in order to be part of Morales method. So we like to be specific about things like this. And I do believe details matter in that type of situation. To me, kind of bottom line, it's okay for someone to learn a thing and to go out. And like I said, that's wonderful if someone wants to share something for the sake of sharing and being a teacher. And you might think, well, doesn't that take away from Morales method? And I don't think it does, because someone might go and learn a technique, and sometimes they might take an online course. And we've seen this also, where someone takes a Morales method online course and then turns around and attempts to teach based on what they saw from the online course. They can, they're free to do that, but don't call it Morales method. You're free to call it whatever you want and do what you will. And it doesn't dilute from the Morales method, because there is still a big piece that's missing when someone goes out and does that. And that is the Morales method approach. And we have amazing instructors under Morales method that teach in a certain way, that have high levels of integrity, that are amazing in what they do. And it's not an army of Martys looking like me doing my thing. They have learned from me and taken my classes for years, have assisted for me for years, and then have also gone through the process by having their own practice, gone through the process of creating the curriculum in their own flavor, if you will. And I think that's really important. And this is something that would be missing if someone were to go off and take some type of class from someone who maybe took an online course and wants to teach you. That's our approach, our experience, the flavor of the way we teach as well. I think would be missing. And these are all things that I believe are very important, and I believe help us to stand out in the crowd. even though we're not a huge organization, we're still pretty well known, which is um, sometimes surprising and sometimes not. And I've heard this many times. And where a larger organization has actually kept their eye on Morales Method to see what we're up to see what we're doing, to hear our opinions, to follow us on Instagram. And, I'll take that as a compliment because I guess that means we're doing something right if they want to know what's going on with our small organization. So I hope this made sense. A lot of this was just a lot of thoughts that I've had that I want to kind of put on the channel from the conversation that I just had recently with another, and I won't mention names on any of this, obviously, but conversation that I had with an amazing instructor, very well respected instructor who's been in the industry for decades. So just wanted to put that out there. And if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and comment below. And thanks again for listening, and I hope to see you in the future.